Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Lou Canellis. Joining me this week on First and North, let's bring in the crew. The voice of the Lions, Dan Miller from Fox in Detroit, from Fox Milwaukee, Brandon Cruz, and from Fox Minneapolis, Ahmad Hicks. All right, guys, glad to be back with all of you. What a great time to be a sports fan right now. So much going on. March Madness, start of the baseball season in Tokyo for the Cubs and the Dodgers, and the Masters looming. NFL free agency, man, what a frenzy. Plenty to talk about. Clearly missed a lot around the NFL over the last 2 weeks. A crazy 2 weeks it was. I want to start with Ahmad and the Vikings. Ahmad, I heard Amon-Ra St. Brown talk about the Bears, and man, where do they get all that money? And I thought the Bears were in the offseason. But the fans in Minnesota, man, they have a pretty good argument. I need to ask the question, where are the Vikings getting all this cash to throw around?
Well, they weren't spending any money the past couple of years, and Kirk Cousins finally left Minnesota, so he left a boatload of cash behind. As you guys know, they were just giving him whatever he wanted the past couple of seasons. Now you don't have a franchise-type quarterback on a multi-million-dollar deal, so you have money galore to go around, and that's what the Vikings have been doing this offseason, is spending it. They've been doing a phenomenal job. Adam Schefter and the Vikings just announced earlier today they brought in some depth for that cornerback room, signing Jeff Okudah, who just came over from the Lions. So another big piece for this team. Certainly, you know, some much needed help because they had a lot of free agents leave and they had a lot of money to spend, and Kwesi is certainly not taking it back to the bank.
You like the Okudah move, and they also signed former Jacksonville wide receiver Tim Jones as well today, right?
Yeah, they did sign Tim Jones. We all kind of chuckled at that because we kind of know what this receiving core is going to be like, and you're going to have Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and T.J. Hockenson, and everybody else after that is kind of like an afterthought somewhat. Jeff Okudah, I mean, look, I think this is his fourth team in 6 seasons. That's kind of a red flag, especially when you're talking about being the 3rd overall pick in a draft. But certainly he helps this team. I don't know if he's the answer, you know, to replace a Stephon Gilmore, but I do think that he will help, you know, Byron Murphy Jr., who just signed a big contract extension here to stay in Minnesota. Outside of that, they don't have any cornerbacks that really have a lot of experience. Dwight McGlothern, he was a rookie last year. And then you also have Mekhi Blackman coming off a torn ACL. So I like it, but I still would like to see the Vikings go find another cornerback that can step in and play day one.
Hey, before I bring in Dan and Brandon, what does this tell you about where the Vikings feel they are as a football team right now?
Harrison Smith said it best the other day. I wanted to come back and play for something this season. I think everyone behind the scenes, everyone in the Vikings organization, every player knows they have a chance to compete for a Super Bowl this year. Albeit, I know it's going to be tough. You got to go through Detroit. Chicago's going to be surging. Green Bay's still going to be around. I think we'll have a repeat of the North being the best division across the NFL. But I think the Vikings understand that window to win is now. And all that help that they just brought in on the offensive line, defensive line will certainly help them get there. They just need that quarterback to get them over the hump. So I think they believe right now is the time to cash in and hopefully, you know, let J.J. McCarthy take this ship and run with it for years.
Now they've got one of the best coaches in the NFL. Why not go for it, right? Packers have been relatively quiet making moves. They did sign guard Aaron Banks to a $77 million contract. Let me bring in Brandon because I've seen some positive comments about this move, Brandon, and I've read where others felt it was just way too much money for a guy like Banks. What do you think?
Well, I think that if you look at what he's done with the 49ers in his time there, he's proven to be a very, very good pass protector. He's only allowed 1 sack and nearly 900 pass attempts there, and he's so big and he's good on the run. So what you see with the Packers generally in this time of year, and not every year, last year they made some big splashes, but they normally don't. Normally it's subtle little moves that just solidify position groups, and that's what you see with what they've done this year. Brian Gutekunst solidifying his offensive line by bringing him in, and this is going to slide Elton Jenkins to center, who's had a lot of experience there anyway, and they lose Josh Myers to the Jets, something that they had planned anyways, that he wasn't in their future. So by bringing in Aaron Banks, they bring in size. They also bring in some youth. He's only 27 years old. So that is something that really, mattered to them, and that's what they were trying to do, is keep things good for Jordan Love and Josh Jacobs. That's very key for their success, as we all know. And then, when you look at that offense, the one thing that I think a lot of Packers fans were hoping for was a big splash at wide receiver. And that didn't happen, and is probably not going to happen with what's left out there on the free agent market.
Here in Chicago, hey, Bears address gaping holes in the trenches, both sides of the football. New head coach Ben Johnson said he wants tough, gritty, dirty individuals. Dan, when you hear that, does this sound familiar when I'm talking about Ben Johnson?
Oh, yeah, and building from the trenches absolutely sounds familiar based on what happened here in Detroit. Look, Ben Johnson was the offensive coordinator for an offense that, while it had some flashy guys and you got a quarterback who's well-known in Jared Goff, it was built around that offensive line. And they put a ton of assets into that offensive line. First-round draft picks, guys they signed in free agency, guys they brought back like Glasgow. So, look, I'm not shocked at all that Ben Johnson is setting the table by building that offensive line, wants to give his rookie quarterback confidence, which was hard to come by last year when he was constantly under duress. So this really doesn't just fit the playbook of what he saw in Detroit. It fits the playbook of the way that you want to support a young quarterback, give him some weapons to work with, but also you got to give him the protection and the time which allows him to stand back there and feel like he can execute the offense.
Yeah, Bears rebuilt the interior of that offensive line with the additions of center Drew Dahlman from Atlanta, Joe Thuney and Jonah Jackson via trades with the Chiefs, and Jackson comes in. ESPN's Dan Orlovsky said that this unit right now is a top 10 offensive line at the moment. Not sure I'll go that far, but it's far better than it was a year ago when they allowed 68 quarterback sacks. During the press conferences last week, you could see Ryan Poles. This man was smiling from ear to ear, former offensive lineman himself. He was listening to Ben Johnson talk ball. Johnson has drastically changed the perception of this football team, without question. Every single new player said they're excited to play for Ben Johnson and play with Caleb Williams at all. They all, as well. They all think that this team is close to, hopefully, make it a playoff run. How about a winning record first? Dan, I want to go back to you. Injuries really crippled the Lions defense last season. Lions fans, I'm reading today, they want another pass rusher. Do you think that they should dip into the free agent pool of what's left and maybe grab someone like former Bear DeMarcus Walker?
You know, there's a couple of veterans that are out there right now in terms of what might be available in defensive ends, but it's been picked over pretty good. So I think if you're drafting or if you're signing a free agent now, you're signing them with the idea that they're probably going to be somebody who's going to come in and have a very narrow role to rush the passer, which they can certainly use. You know, the beauty, though, is in the eyes of the beholder. It is in the eyes of the GM and the head coach. And there are guys that we may look at and say, he did X in city Y. Why can't he come to Detroit and do that? Well, they don't necessarily feel like he's a systemic fit. And I do think that's the overriding thing that needs to be looked at here with all these free agent dollars flying is how many of these players will leave the city they were in where they had success and come to a new city. And that's the question every year. It's not just the NFC North. That's all cities everywhere where you're spending big bucks on a guy. So, look, they know who's out there. Every mock draft has them taking an edge. They're going to add more guys to that defensive line. Where they will come from, trade, remaining free agents, draft, it remains to be seen. But, look, we know it's something that needs to be addressed, so I guarantee you Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell know that as well.
Dan, how big a loss was offensive guard Kevin Zeitler, who signed with the Titans?
It was expected. Now, that doesn't mean it wasn't significant. They got Christian Mahogany ready to go, and the difference between having a guy on a fifth-round contract in his second year and Zeitler, who got $9 million in his contract, is significant. And right now, when you start looking at the fact that you have to re-sign Kirby Joseph, you have to re-sign Aiden Hutchinson, re-sign Brian Branch, you've got a ton of guys coming up for contracts that are going to be huge deals, and the market keeps getting more significant. Throw Sam Laporta in there as well. I just think they're trying to be judicious in what they spend. And if there's some place where they feel confident that they can put a young player making less money in there and develop not just for the moment but for the future as well, they're going to do that. It is a time where I think they're trying to be careful, understanding what's in front of them. And look, every time you blink, something is changing in terms of what the market looks like for a defensive end, how it's now projected above $30 million a year. You got Derek Stingley Jr., who just signed for $30 million plus a year. So the cap numbers that these agents are going to be talking with players that come in to negotiate, in particular players that are regarded near the top of their position groups in the leagues, the numbers are staggering, and they've got a lot of work to do just to keep the talent that they have here in place.
And that's the problem with building through free agency, because the prices, the salaries are just out of whack. And I want to go because I love my man Ahmad, and I'm dying to get his reaction because he didn't do the show last week. We had Don Mitchell on instead. Buddy, tell me what you thought of the Sam Darnold getting the 3-year deal with the Seahawks.
It's the market. It's the market right now. We all knew he was going to get paid a ridiculous amount of money. I'm just honestly questioning why I became a journalist and not a sports agent at this point, because the money and the contracts that they're making right now is ridiculous. So that's a thought that I'm having to ignore every single day before I step on the camera. But no, seriously, I think when you see Sam Darnold getting that type of money, that's just the price for a quarterback who can go out there and maybe go win 7 to 9 games. And that's why you won't see the Seattle Seahawks be a competitive team, or a team that's going to get in the playoffs and be a serious threat to go on and go win a Super Bowl, for that fact that when you have to pay a quarterback like that and you don't have a ton of pieces around him, you're just handicapping your team. And so, yes, it was good for Sam Darnold that he got paid. He can set up his family for the rest of their lives, but I don't think he's going to be competing for a Super Bowl, and I think that's what he walked away from, here in Minnesota.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Hey, Lou, let me throw this in, too.
Yeah.
You talked about a general manager in Chicago that was smiling. There's a lot of GMs around the league that are smiling right now. Question is, how many will be smiling next October, November, December, January? How many will be smiling in 2026? And how many will be trying to shed the contracts that they've given guys right now? March is a great time to feel good, but feeling good in March doesn't always translate. And you know what? For teams like Detroit and teams like Green Bay, maybe in a year or two, they're going to be looking at it and saying we should be more active. But I would throw out there are plenty of teams that have gone and spent big money and felt great in March, and, man, it just not end up working out. But you got to go with your conviction as a team, whether it's to kind of sit to the side as Green Bay and Detroit have done, or go all in like it looks like Minnesota and Chicago have done. But there's no guarantee how it's all going to fit together. That's why we get to watch and see how it unfolds coming up in the fall.
Dan, I agree with you 100%.
Dan, we should just ask the Falcons how they feel about last season, paying Kirk Cousins all that money. And then
how many times has Jacksonville done it? How many times has Jacksonville done it? Miami has done it.
You're exactly right.
And then two years later, it's like, how do we get out from under this?
And we thought here in Chicago, we won the offseason last year and that we were going to the playoffs. And 5-12 later, we're looking for a new head coach. Hey, Brandon, before we go to break, do you think the Packers have done enough in free agency?
I do, because of the way they've historically done this. I mean, I know that there's a lot of clamor to do what the Vikings or the Bears have and bring in big names and spend a lot of money. But if you look at the history of this organization, rarely do they do it. They target those guys. Last year, yes, Josh Jacobs, was a big deal. And when you look at Xavier McKinnon, he made a huge impact. But most years, they don't have a guy like that they really want to spend that money on and bring in. So the way the Packers historically have found success is to pick their spots. And this year, they must not have felt that there was that guy or that group of guys to spend that kind of money on. So in trusting in what Brian Gutekunst has done, I think that they feel very good about where they stand right now.
All right, we need to take our first time out. NFL contracts skyrocketing. We were talking about it. So what's the best way to build a roster? We will discuss, and one major domino to goes in free agency. His name is Aaron Rodgers. He's interested in Minnesota, but are they interested in him? We will see all that and more coming up here on First and North.
Dr. Larson has no recollection of the last 8 years.
Doc
is TV's best new medical drama.
I need to know.
And you can watch it anytime.
I will be a doctor again.
Doc, all new Tuesdays on Fox, and watch anytime on Hulu.
All right, we're back here on First and North. Luke Canellis with you at our Fox 32 studios. Dan Miller's in Detroit. Brandon Cruz, Fox Milwaukee. Ahmad Hicks, Fox Minneapolis. All right, guys, NFL salary cap, it continues to rise and the contracts continue to grow. We saw this week Bengals wide receiver duo of Jamar Chase and T. Higgins really cash in. Chase is now the highest paid non-quarterback in the NFL. He tops Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, who held on to that spot for, what, a couple of days, few hours? Ahmad, I love Chase. He's on record as saying he wants to make more money than his former college teammate Justin Jefferson. In your opinion, which of the two is the best receiver in the NFL?
Oh, that's tough. You're putting me on the spot, Lou. It's so funny because I was looking at the numbers last night. I think the numbers don't really tell an accurate story because Jamar Chase has been in the NFL one less year and his numbers are still productive. I think it just depends on what you're looking for. If you need a wide receiver that can take a slant and go make it into a house call, that's Jamar Chase. If you're looking for that big play guy, it's Jamar Chase. But if you're looking for the reliable, I can do everything from every aspect of the game, from inside, outside, running deep routes, short routes, making contested catches, I think Justin Jefferson is your guy. So it's kind of like a 1A, 1B. You can't go wrong with either of them. And I'm going to go like Joe Burrow and just kind of stay down the middle. I'm not going to pick who's better, but because I'm here in Minnesota, I have to go Jets just because I have to go in that locker room and talk to him. But I still think there's no, bad choice having a Jamar Chase as your, number one wide receiver. But, good competition to have. Yeah,
good competition. I'll tell you what, here in Chicago, I haven't seen enough of Chase. Thankfully, I've seen way too much of Jefferson as a Bears fan. Dan, I watched the show last week, and you said free agency is hit or miss based on the size of these contracts. You alluded to it in the last segment. You see what the Bengals did, and I agree with you, by the way. I think building through free agency is the wrong way to go. You've got to do it through the draft. Mm-hmm. You see what the Bengals did, and they're paying over $125 million to 3 players right now. Is that the right way to build a Super Bowl champ? I can't believe it is.
But your option is, and let me say this, I love your question a minute ago. Justin Jefferson, to me, is the guy. There's not a guy in this game that scares me at receiver the way that he does. But being in Detroit, if I need a first down and I need to tell my guy, just get open and I'll find you, I'll go Amon-Ra St. Brown. But I digress. Look, you got a choice to make if you're Cincinnati. You gonna let these guys walk out the door? Are you getting better at that point, or do you have to figure out a way to try to pay them? I know people say, and we talked about this last week, the salary cap isn't real. It is real, and there does come a point where you've got to find a way to either wedge a guy in or you end up letting somebody go. I don't know what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson. We'll wait and see. But Cincinnati, this is timing for them. What you're seeing in Cincinnati is not far removed from what you're going to see in Detroit, where they've already signed Sewell, they've already signed Amon-Ra, they extended Jared Goff, but you still got the guys I listed for you coming earlier. Aiden Hutchinson will reset the market at defensive end. Kirby Joseph is going to come close if he doesn't reset the market at safety. And then beyond that, Sam Laporta is going to command a big contract. Brian Branch, we got those things coming here, and they're going to have to figure out a way to do it. So I do think, Lou, to your original point, it is the way to build a team. You draft and develop, and then you try to find that free agent that can maybe finish the picture for you. But to try to do it overall by just bringing in guys 2 years later, you're in trouble with the cap.
I'll tell you what, Dan, I think Brad Holmes is, if not the best GM in football right now, he's at the top 3. How's he going to keep all those guys happy?
It's a great question. They're going to have to figure it out with dollars and cents and what makes sense. And you may not be able to keep all those guys because, again, these are going to be top-of-the-market guys. And in the end, I think we'll see Kirby done and Aiden done maybe before the season begins. And they'll try to get those things knocked out. And let's face it, guys, the sooner you do it, the better. Because while you wait, the market just keeps going up and up and up. And to your point about Holmes, I agree with you. but it's two prongs. And this is what, the question will be for Ben Johnson in Chicago, and has already been answered by the other coaches in this division. You got to not just be able to draft, but you got to be able to develop. You have to have coaches that can teach and help these guys learn what it is to be an NFL player and what it is to be a Lion or a Packer or a Viking or a Bear. And I think look, we've seen enough bad football and bad times in Detroit that we know what good times looks like. It's drafting and developing. It's a coaching staff. It's a personnel department. They got to go hand in hand. Challenge for Ben Johnson in Chicago is going to be not just integrating all these guys, but taking the young guys that they have as well and helping them to flourish and become the best they can possibly be.
I'm with you. Hey, Brandon, Packers desperately looking for a number one wide receiver. Do you think the contracts the Bengals handed out hurt Green Bay's chances of getting their go-to guy at wide receiver this offseason?
I definitely think when you look at the money situation with all these contracts, that probably was one of the things that kept them from pulling the trigger on, say, a DK Metcalf if they could have, or something like that. It's a matter of, to me, with this Packers team, they always are conservative in their choices, and that includes the way they pay guys. That includes who they bring in and the culture around them. So with the Packers, I think they're going to probably do what they've done in the past and go to the draft for that. But I also think their biggest need is on the defensive line for an edge rusher. So we'll see where they go early in the draft. But for them, the way they have done things, I keep saying this today, it's a historic trend that they rarely go out and spend big money on free agents. And I don't think once that market opened up and the guys that were at the top of the list at wide receiver were gone, I think they immediately pulled back and started looking at their other options.
Ahmad, I've got 1 minute to go. I'm dying to get your thoughts. ESPN's Adam Schefter said earlier this morning Aaron Rodgers seems to be more interested in the Vikings than they are in him. Do you think the Vikings get Rodgers?
I don't think they should get Rodgers. I can understand why they feel like they maybe need to go out and go get an Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, but I think he just brings so much baggage to the team. We saw last year him getting mad at Mike Williams for not running down the line when he threw a no-look pass. Who does that on a 50-yard fade down the field? I just think that Aaron Rodgers needs everything to be perfect, from the way he likes the plays calls, etc. Whereas Kevin O'Connell, he's the mastermind. He makes quarterbacks good because of his game plan. So while, yes, it is a flashy move, it makes some sense, I don't think it makes all the sense in the world to bring Aaron Rodgers to Minnesota. Not now.
Nice work. All right, we need to take our final timeout. We'll be right back to wrap up the show.
Stroopstork is known for cheese, laundry, and bowling.
You gotta be kidding me.
Going Dutch, all new Thursdays on Fox.
Welcome back to First and North. Luke Canellis with you. Ahmad, you are a Southern Illinois Saluki alum, and when I saw this online this past weekend, I could not believe my eyes. Take a listen.
Oh, man, we got one of the biggest boxes we've ever got from the Southern Illinois Salukis. You know what a Saluki is? It's an elegant dog. It's really fast. It's a hunting dog. Southern Illinois Salukis, did you know Brandon Jacobs, the beast from the New York Giants, played there? Did you know Bart Scott, one of the nastiest, toughest linebackers from the Jets and Ravens, played there? I bet you didn't know this. Jenny McCarthy went there. And Melissa McCarthy went there. And Jim Belushi went there.
Hey, look, Lou, as soon as I saw that video, I messaged head coach Nick Hill right away. It's like, where's my care package? Like, I haven't received one since 2015. I need some updated gear. I'm still wearing a hoodie from 2013, and I'm sure Gruden will only wear that in that video. So I had a problem with Coach Hill after that.
I was going to say, what did Coach Hill say? Is it on its way?
He just liked my tweet. I'm like, what is this? You asked me to come back and talk to the guys and help them out. Least you could do is send me a sweatsuit. I'm representing the university with pride. I feel like, so me and Nick need to have another conversation.
Dan, I don't know about you, but I'm calling Loyola for gear. You better be calling George Mason, and Brandon, you better be calling Long Beach State, right?
I'm always up for a hoodie.
Guys, great work. Great to be back on the show with you all. Enjoy the week. For Dan Miller, Ahmad Hicks, and Brandon Cruz, I'm Luke Canellis. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week here on First and North.